Oh, what happened there? Okay, the intro went weird. That was weird. It's great. Great to have you back. How did the first week of games go?
Oh, so we went to SUNY Oneata last Saturday. Long ride. Our starting point guard went down with a knee injury. We found out yesterday she's out for the season.
No.
Yeah, so we played well. We lost. They're a really good team, so we kept it close. We fought, and then we played Wednesday night against a team that's ranked like first in their conference. They lost by like 40 to them last year. We ended up losing by 3. We had a couple of chances to win, and the cool part is we had 2 freshmen that had enough like chutzpah to take like game-winning shots at the end. Neither one fell. We had 2 really good looks. But what are you going to do? So then we play again tomorrow. So we're 0-2, which was kind of expected at this point. We played 2, really good out of conference games, but we were in both games, which is good. We saw progress every day. Wednesday night we got into crazy foul trouble. One of our better players fouled. She only played 14 minutes. She usually plays like 30.
Oh wow.
So yeah, there's so many different crazy emphasis this year for refs. Really bizarre.
What do you
She
mean?
she got called for like 6 travels in the post because she's catching. I mean, I watched the replay like 100 times yesterday. It didn't look like a travel to me, but they're saying she's hopping before she makes her move, like after she catches it. So I guess that's a new emphasis. The weird part is that they put these emphasis on certain things, and it doesn't even give the player an advantage. Actually, if anything, it slows them down from making the
Right.
move.
Right.
So I'm not really sure, where that came from, but we worked with her yesterday at practice, and we'll work again today. I'm just kind of slowing that footwork down. She's making great moves and scoring. She had 13 points and 9 rebounds in 14 minutes.
Oh wow.
So if we had her for a full game, I think the outcome would have been really different. But that's sports, right? Unfortunately, things happen out of your
The
control.
building, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were down like 18 at one point. We battled back. We took the lead. We missed 12 free throws, like 7 of them down the stretch.
Oh,
So, again, as a coach, it's like, unfortunately, there's not much I can do besides just making them shoot free throws in practice, but nothing really gets you ready for that in-game pressure moment when you're dog tired to be able to make them. So, we live to fight another day. So we play
yeah.
York College tomorrow. We should beat them. I think we're a lot better than them, but you never know. Obviously the point guard now being out for the season, we got to adjust some things pretty early on that we weren't expecting to have to adjust, but
Right.
we still have. We get a different kid back tonight. We get one of our senior post players, which will be good. She's been playing volleyball and they lost last night, so we get her back today. But I mean, today's her first time touching a basketball in like months, so we'll see what we could do. If she could play some defense and block some shots, I'll be happy. So
It's got to be a challenge taking over a team and trying to build it up, and then dealing with thinking about how you want to build it up at the same time you're dealing with day to day, trying to get the most out of them, trying to get them to like get to the level that you want them to, and or that they have the capability to get to, and
yeah,
you're trying to do it as fast as possible, which is
yeah. I mean, patience is definitely not a virtue I'm really strong in. So, I just have to keep reminding myself every day, like we're only a couple weeks in. We got a lot of freshmen. We got new offenses, new defense. I think, what I'm finding is that some of the returners, at times, I feel like they lack confidence. I don't know if that comes from prior years or what. Like, I've never had to coach a team that I have to tell to shoot. Like, normally it's the other way around, like, right? Like, you got 1 or 2 kids that just like, take shots out of the flow of the offense or whatever. And these kids, I'm like, we pass up like 12, 15 open shots a game. And then now we're at the end of the shot clock and we got to take a shot that's not as favorable. Like, it's just a weird dynamic. But, every day I'm just trying to preach, like, let's just get 1% better today, which we have. So, that's a positive. But yep, not the start we wanted, but definitely the start that I think most people thought we'd have in terms, really just in win loss.
Right.
Like the other night, we had like record attendance for women's games that they've had in like years, which was really cool. And it was awesome that it was. I mean, it literally came down to the last shot, so it was super exciting. We had a couple of
Right.
recruits there, so all of that stuff is really positive. And sometimes you win those, sometimes you lose them. So what are you gonna do?
No doubt about it. I love your title there, serial entrepreneur. So actually, serial entrepreneur.
Oh, is that still up there?
Yeah.
Oh, that must be from the pod I did with Cully a couple weeks ago.
Cereal, like eating a cereal.
Yeah, so like everyone calls me a serial entrepreneur, like SERIAL. And a couple of weeks ago, it's funny because I told him that every week I'm going to change like.
Yes, I saw the bus one or something.
Oh yeah, like hater of buses with no bathrooms. So I was telling him that I'm like, I love cereal. Like I could eat cereal like any meal of the day. So that was like my tagline that day. I don't know why it's still up. I didn't click on that. So it must have just saved and pulled over. So anyone listening, I'm a serial entrepreneur and a serial entrepreneur.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So your buses don't have bathrooms?
So the first road scrimmage that we had one, so we get on this one on Saturday and it took us like almost 4 hours to get there. And we get on the bus and the guy's like, I just want to let you know there's no bathroom on this one. I'm like, what? So, we had to stop, which, you hate doing because you just want to get there. We ended up getting there with 40 minutes on the clock to play, which wasn't great either. Like you want to get there an hour and a half before, get on the floor an hour before, et cetera. But yeah, so that wasn't great. Hopefully we'll have a bus moving forward. I put a little note in there like, hey, like anything over 2.5 hours, like we really need a bathroom. Like,
yeah,
you're telling the kids to hydrate all trip. And then, we're on the way home and we're like a half an hour in and one of the kids is like, I really got to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, and like, you just want to get home at that point,
Right. Well, yeah, there's nothing you have to stop. And it's like, wow,
yeah,
that's tough. Yeah, no doubt. That's the D3 world. You have to battle through some things.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking
to a big donor over there, Marie.
Yeah, right. I was talking to Morgan Valley yesterday. She's the assistant coach up at UConn, and we usually talk like once or twice a week. But she was like, "How's it going?" I was like, "Man, I'm just living the D3 life." I told her about the bathroom story. She goes, "Honestly, that's like the low and mid-major D1 life too." Like, yeah, but like back in my day, it was like souped up coach buses. Always had a bathroom. We go right to the airplane and you walk 10 feet and you get on, you have chartered flights. So it's a different world, but
you're spoiled.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've been spoiled, but yeah, that was a little bit much the other day. The 4-hour ride with no bathroom was rough. Even I had like a couple points was like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I would make it.
Yeah. So speaking of UConn, huge game tonight. We got North Carolina at North Carolina tonight. And North Carolina is very good, obviously hard to play on the road as well. But, there's like this unspoken thing right now because if he wins tonight, when we're all up there next Wednesday for his 40th celebration, he would officially become the all-time winningest coach next Wednesday as well if they win tonight. So, a lot riding on this.
Wow!
Outside of just the normal
NCAA
stuff.
history of winning as coach in NCAA. Who passed? Does he pass? Is that Pat Summitt?
It'd be no. Tara Vanderveer broke it last year, and then she retired. Right. And he wasn't that far behind her, anyways. But yeah, I mean, if they win tonight, and then they should win next Wednesday. They're playing like Fairleigh Dickinson or something like that. So
right.
And there's a ton of us back for that game because they're doing a big 40th season celebration. And, I don't know if they picked that game because this would also potentially be him breaking the record, but it should hopefully be a really cool night. We'll find out tonight. That game's it's early tonight. I think it's at 6 o'clock. So
Okay.
I'll be in practice till 6:30, and then I'll hop up to my office and watch. So
The 40 so it's 40 years that they've had women's basketball,
no,
or the 40 years of him being there.
it's his and Chris Daly's 40th season together.
Oh, they were there in 84. They came there.
Yeah, crazy, right?
Like that. See, I thought when I was a freshman in 92, I had thought he'd only had been there at the time for a few years. I didn't realize that he had been there for like 7-8 years already.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's incredible. They've been there 40 years.
I mean, 40 years to be at the same place for 40 years is incredible in and of itself. And then you break down the resume of what they've been able to accomplish. And I mean, you remember, because even back in 92,
yeah,
they weren't winning a ton of games yet, So by the time you left, they had won their first, right?
I don't know if I told you the story. When I first got there in 92, they were very good. They were really. Rebecca was there already. It was Rebecca.
Yeah, that would have been her probably her freshman year, freshman or sophomore year.
It might have been sophomore year. It was Rebecca Rosati. Yeah, it had to be. They won. When they win, 95 was when they won.
Yeah, and Lobo was a senior. Rosati was a junior that year. So yeah, then that would have been Lobo's sophomore year. Would have been that same year.
So they were pretty. I think they were pretty good. I think it was my second year there, 93, when I girls games originally were free. Okay.
Yeah.
You could go to a Gamble game.
You just walk right in. Yeah, you walk right in. Yeah.
I used to go watch the girls play volleyball, walk right in. Go watch, girls play basketball, go right in. So they come and they play. This had to be 93. They played Stanford was at UConn. It was a big game, and UConn was really good that year. I don't remember how far they went, but they went very far. And Stanford was coming at the time. Stanford and Tennessee were really the top dogs.
Yeah.
And so I come there, and I'm with somebody, and I walk into Gamble to go watch the game, and I pull the door open. I go to show my student ID, and they're like, "You can't go in." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't go in?" They're like, "You can't go in. We're charging for the game." I'm like, "You're charging for the game?" So I was befuddled. I walked out. I didn't go to the game, right? It obviously was I think you got one, but it was a great game. And but I was befuddled. But that's how it was. That was the first time they ever charged for a game. It was really before that. It was, listen. If we can get people to watch games, that'd be great. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that was the first time. And I remember they must have had a pretty big crowd because a lot of people probably went. And from that point forward, though, it was on its way. It was like a rocket ship. It was literally a rocket ship. So I didn't realize, because I think they probably originally played in that field house.
Yep.
It's probably where they originally. I think the men probably did too before Gamble got built. But it's funny because when I first got there, the field house is beautiful now. I'm assuming it still is. I haven't been there in a while, but when I first got there, the field house was like how it was, like literally like wood floors. The track was it was awful. And
we used to practice there, like if Gamble wasn't available or something was
really?
going on. Yeah. Very maybe once or twice a year. Like it wasn't often, but I think they've recently renovated it. At least that's what I heard.
They had renovated it by the end of the years that I was there. They had renovated it, but then they might. I'm sure they renovated it again because what they built at that time was not what you would have now. I'm sure. And it was funny because I was also informed that we were talking about the arms race of football and basketball with Joe D'Ambrosia and how the basketball facility obviously got built. I don't know, is it 10 years now? I think 10 years ago. Obviously, it was long after you were playing, but 10 years ago. But I heard that they're saying that they may have to they may have to do it again because all these other places are building these like incredible basketball facilities.
Yeah, I
So
mean, our facility is awesome. I mean, I don't know what
I
they could
heard it's unbelievable.
possibly do to it to make it better than it is. I mean, they got their own chef in like kitchen upstairs. They got and it's a mirror. So you walk in and women's basketball is to the left and you walk to the right and men's basketball is over there. And it's basically a mirror with the only difference being obviously this side is more men's basketball history and this side's more women's. But I mean the court's beautiful. They got spa, training
Yep.
room, weightlifting room, like on each side. It's a pretty special place. They really need to redo Gamble. I
Right.
would say
Absolutely.
they should redo Gamble before they touch anything else. But
I agree. I agree.
yeah,
Why don't you know? It was funny. We had that discussion, and Joe D's a little more old school, but I'm like, dude, I don't know if you knock down the foundation, but you knock down gambling. First of all, there's no suites there, right? You guys all the big games have to go to the XL Center, right? So
yeah, no suites there. They added seating. I think it was like my junior or senior year. They did
okay,
add seating in two corners, so we're right under 11,000 there. Which, I mean, listen, is what I always love about Gamble is that there's not a bad seat in the place.
right.
You go to the Civic Center, and if you end up top, you may as well just watch the television prompter thing instead of the game. It's tough, But I always liked playing at the Civic Center better. I feel like I always shot better there. I feel like we're a little bit more dialed in because you stay at the hotel because it is quite a hike from campus. You do the pregame meal across the street. We used to do it at the Goodwin Hotel. I don't know where they do it now, but and you hop on the bus and you got a 30-second ride to the Civic Center. When you're on campus, it's like you're doing pregame. Well, now they probably do pregame right in the facility. Back then, we would do it at the CAF. Then make our way over. But yeah, it's a little outdated. I mean, they just put in a brand new like prompter screen thing where they do the starting lineups and all of that. Which looks really, really cool. I feel like they've updated that a couple of times. I think they did do some updates to the roof because there was a while there where like the roof was always leaking.
No.
Yeah, but it's I get where Joe's coming from and being like the old school part of it because it does give you like that old school original historical feel. Like the same way when you like have you ever been to Cameron Indoor?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, on TV that place looks huge with the angle that they show. And then you walk in there and you're like, this is it? Like
Yep.
it's kind of wild. It's not that big. I don't even think they have as much seating as Gamble does, but like if you redid that and built some monstrosity there, you do take away like that whole historical old school vibe. So, it's tough, but I do think that it, to your point, it would be cool to add some suites and some stuff like that there that just make the experience from a fan perspective a little bit better. But again, the nice part is like there really isn't a bad seat in the house there.
No, that is what makes Gamble unique is that there's all there's all
and you're like right on the court. Like the student section is like right there
on the court.
Yeah. Whereas like the Civic Center, it's a little bit further back. So like you don't, and when you go to Cameron Indoor, it's even worse. I mean, those Cameron crazies are literally like leaning over onto the court, which just gives it like a whole different cool vibe. So yeah, I'm kind of torn. Like I do think they need to make renovations, but there is something to be said for the history there and like just the overall energy and atmosphere is like unmatched.
No, right, absolutely. I wonder if some point they would actually change it. It's an embedded structure to the way that it's built. It's like
because it's down, right?
Down,
So like
yeah,
like you got to go downstairs to go into that top level, and then the court is down. So it's not like some facilities you walk in and you walk straight in, and then you have all the seating up, and maybe you have like one section that goes down, but ours goes like pretty far down.
Yeah, so I would imagine that it would be probably a difficult structure to.
Yeah, it would definitely be tough.
It's unique. It's a very, very unique, and where it's situated in campus
Yep.
is that part is definitely I don't know, like there's not many places that have that part like
Yeah, like it's usually on the outskirt of a campus,
yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
Even football field wise, like have you been to Penn State?
Football wise, yeah.
Yeah. So like, the stadium's kind of on the outskirt there. Their
Yep.
their basketball facility is, I guess, central to that side, but that campus is so big, like
So huge.
you don't even feel it, like the cool part about Gamble is that it is kind of right in the center of everything. Like you walk out of Gamble and you're at the business building, like
Yes,
so
it's right across the street. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the only crummy part that I used to hate going there to watch games is that, I mean, the traffic, right? Like you got one street in, one street out. Like, thankfully they built that other parking garage right across where the co-op is. Cause for a while there, like parking was bad.
Ooh,
Because they just had that one parking garage down by like where X Lot used to be.
yep. Yeah.
Which is a little bit of hike in the middle of winter with the wind tunnel that you got there on that main drag. But
You won't believe it. When I was there was no parking garages. So it was crazy because obviously the men were already very good at that point. And obviously the women equaled it as it got like towards. There was no, I don't know how the people, like I'm thinking back, like
I don't know where they parked.
Where did they must have parked? My guess is they parked up along the hills, like wherever you.
Because none of that stuff was there, right? So I remember when the first game I ever went to was in '94. My dad took me to a game, so this is before they won, but like they were becoming good, and I was really into basketball at the time. And you would go up that hill, and there were stairs. It would take you to that parking lot that's right up top there. That's kind of that bridge. I think that lot is still there, but like that's where he parked because none of that stuff was there before. Like you had to build parking garages because you kept up, building on all these different parts where people would park. So it's crazy. I mean, 40 years is just nuts. Kudos to him. I mean, the resume is just insane. Like I was just saying the other day, so they won in 95, then they didn't win again until 2000, right? So from 2000 to 2024, they won 10 of the 24 years.
Mind blowing.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like you get one national championship and you're happy, right? Like they had 10 in a quarter of a century. 10. So
that's incredible. One every 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess. That's incredible. That's beyond incredible. It's amazing. How many did you win? 2 or 3? 3, right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so sophomore, junior, senior. 3 in a row. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Like, do you think back to that time period, and does it feel like now? Obviously, you're coaching. Does it feel like it was all like this unbelievable dream almost? Like, because you don't play as much.
What's funny is like, again, so like when I was a freshman, they had just won their second national championship, right?
Okay.
So, we were the third, fourth, fifth, which is just wild to think about, now knowing that they have 11, like, there were still 6 more after that. But, back then it was probably my junior year where I started to realize that like people in Connecticut were spoiled because like if you lost a game, like literally the sky fell. I don't feel like it's as much like that now as it was back then because, we had that 30, we won in 2000. Then in 2002, we had that 39-0 season. So we, now and then we trailed that right into like the all-time winning streak, which then they ended up breaking, the one that we set. But like we got so accustomed to winning, it was kind of just like, this is what you do here. But that was really the first time period of it. And I don't think we at the time realized the gravity of it all. Like when I think back to it now, it's kind of like, oh man, like how many, I mean, besides Stewie and her class who won 4, like how many can say they won 3? And the best part is, right? Like I always say,
No one
Everybody
other
always
than
asks me like, what's my favorite one of the three? And it's so hard, right? Because every championship is so different. Like sophomore year was my first, right? So that has like a special place in my heart. And we were so dominant. We had probably the best starting five in like women's basketball history that year. Our starters were Sue, Diana, Tamika, Swin, and Asia. Who four of them went to go and be like the top seven, out of the top seven draft picks in the WNBA that year. Like it was just insane. And then my junior year was really special because nobody thought we were going to win because we graduated so much. And we actually went 37-1 that year. So we only had one loss that whole year, ended up winning the national championship. And then, senior year always takes, I feel like if I had to pick one, that's my favorite because there's nothing better than your last collegiate game being a national championship.
Yeah.
Like you just kind of ride out on this high, like
That's it.
How else could you want it? So I think like if I had to like gun to my head, which one is my favorite, I probably would pick that one for that reason. Like no regrets, right? Like laid it all out there. You won the last game of the year that you could possibly win and you got a national championship. Like, and oh, hey, by the way, it was your third in a row. That kind of is different. Like everybody says that about the three, but all three of them are so different people, different styles. We had different trials and tribulations on each season. But yeah, it's kind of wild to think about. And then you flash forward to 2024, which of course now I feel old, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be 42 next week. And I'm like, holy cow, like this is crazy. Like we're going back to celebrate 40 years. And I guess so in 2001, I would have been his, third, I'm trying to think. So if he started in 84, 15, 16, I was his 17th freshman class.
Right.
So there were 23 other freshman classes after me.
Yeah.
That's like mind blowing. When I really do the math and I think about that, I'm like, oh shoot, like I am really old. I don't feel old, but like from that standpoint, it's like, holy cow. Like that was a really long time ago when we did something special. And I love it because I run into people all the time that I'm from here and I still live here, where people still will say like, those 4 years when I was there, that was like the good old days. Like, we sold out every single game. I remember we had a game in Hartford versus Tennessee in January. It was one of the worst snowstorms that Connecticut had had in forever. And I remember being at the Goodwin Hotel and it was like, we don't know, like we probably won't have that many fans today because the roads are freaking awful. Like, there's like a state ban, like stay home unless you're emergency services or whatever. And I remember we came out, we always would shoot and then we go in and, you do your team thing. And we came out with like, let's say 30 minutes on the clock. The whole place was packed. The whole place was packed. There was not an empty seat. That game ended up, Diana hit a 3 to force it into overtime. And we ended up winning in overtime. And again, a game that nobody thought we were going to win. That was like our first like real test that year after we graduated, the 4 seniors from the year before. And Tennessee was ranked number 1. They had a ton of seniors that year. They were like opposite us. Like they had all the upper. Kara Lawson was a senior. Like,
oh wow,
they had all these people who were, and think about that. Like I said that the other day. I like Kara Lawson. I hate that she tries to do a mic drop every time she's got a mic in front of her. But imagine this: she played at Tennessee. She went 4 years without winning a national championship. It's crazy. Yeah. And you don't think about it like that. And even at UConn, like we joke sometimes, like, obviously if they don't win this year, like Paige would have been there 5 years without a national championship. I can't even like wrap my head around that. And that's probably only happened to like 2, maybe 3 classes since 95, which is kind of wild when you think about that.
Crazy. And
you're like, wow, we feel like we always say, like, we feel really bad for those classes that just happen to hit that dry spell of that 4 years and never got one, Like here, like we'll share one of ours with you. Like, we have a couple that we could spare, but it's crazy.
It's unfathomable for most people. but it's normal for you guys, and that's the thing that's makes actually you guys so unique in the sense that it would be hard for you and a lot of the girls to relate to the fact that that's actually the case. You know what I mean? It's not something that's it's so unique. I mean, I wonder, like I don't know, like I wonder how Gino thinks sitting there. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he's been able to win the way he has. I wonder if he ever reflects on the fact that it's so unreal what he does. I know he probably does it because he likes to grind and he likes the process of coaching the women and the process of helping them
and
get
it's
better.
addictive, right? Like that competitive part of it is addictive. But like I just looked it up. So like you mentioned Stanford in that game, the first one that they charged. So Tara Vanderveer last year when she retired, it was her 38th season. Now Stanford has been a top program since I can remember, since the 90s.
Right.
She has three, only three. Like
that's incredible. And how many since UConn became dominant? Probably maybe one.
Maybe one. I think there was one in there. Yeah, 2021 they won. So 1990, 1992, and then 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it's
it's
how many
crazy.
did Tennessee win from the time? I know there was a time
when Pat Summitt was there. They, when she left, they had 8, and they haven't won any since.
Right.
So, and I don't know how many years she was actually there. Before she stepped down, obviously due to an illness. Yeah. They won. They had Candace Parker in 2007, 2008. So that was after me. They won back-to-back those years. And before that, they actually had 3 in a row, 96, 97, 98. And I think that was like the Shamika Holdsclaw days.
Yeah.
She was so good. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like people don't talk about her enough. She was so good. It was like crazy. And then you had Tamika Catchings after her and then Candace Parker. But Shamika Holdsclaw, New York kid, Christ the King.
She was like the first freakish athlete. Like,
oh my gosh. And like, she's so talented. I should see if we could get her on. AB's friends with her.
Oh yeah.
She's really big into the mental health platform and stuff now.
Oh really?
But she was just so good. And there's a lot of those players when you think about it back in the day. But yeah, to think that Tara Vanderveer retired last year as the all-time winningest coach and only had 3 national championships.
That's unbelievable. That's because of Gina. That's because of you guys. That's
that's the only. And then Pat Summitt, right? So Pat Summitt came around, and then she didn't win another one until Pat Summitt retired, and all that good stuff. They won the year right after the COVID year. Was their most recent, but yeah, it's wild. And like, even I gotta look this up now too because I'm interested. Even on the men's side, like, how many does Coach K have? Let's see, 5. Right? And he was there. His most recent was 2015.
Calhoun had what, 3?
Hurley has 2. Was where I was going with that, right? So
Calhoun has 3.
UConn must have at least 5 because
I think we have 6. I think Calhoun has 3.
Ollie
has 1, and then Hurley has 2.
So there you go. So 6 then.
Yeah,
but like, how many years did that take? How many? Let me see that. How many
Calhoun, years? It took him a while to get to there because I remember Gino had. I think I'm right. Gino won first, and
yeah,
Calhoun.
99?
Yes,
the men shocked the world.
Was that Khalil El-Amin? Was that with El-Amin?
Okay. Yeah. And then the girls won the next set. So Coach K was at Duke for 42 seasons and won 5 before he retired. Just for like, so Hurley's been at UConn, what is this, his 5th season or his 6th? I don't know the answer to that.
He came there in 2018 or 17. Because I remember it took him a few years before he got there.
March of 2018, which means his
Oh,
first
2008.
season was 2018 to 2019. Now, asterisk on all that, right? Because the COVID year, there was no national championship, right? So you're saying now 4, 5, 6. So he's basically 2 for 5, let's say,
Okay.
which is incredible.
Incredible.
It's
If he
incredible.
won, he'd be 3 for 6. That really is incredible.
Yeah. Because you can't count the COVID year, right? It's thrown in there. But without being able to play that postseason, you can't really legitimately count that. So, when I look at all of this stuff outside of Wooden back in the day, you're
Right.
talking at UConn from
One
just
was
a
8 for 10.
practical year percentage of when they were, how long they were coaching versus how many not successful seasons, not wins, national championships, which is the hardest thing to do. UConn on both the men's and the women's side. I mean, it's the basketball capital of the world. I mean, there
It
was no
is.
doubt in my mind before, but now that I think about it mathematically, it's kind of insane.
No, it is the basketball capital of the world. There's no like when I think of basketball and who's the most dominant. Actually, if you separated women or men out, they probably are the most dominant in their sport, right? Alone. But
Yeah,
you combine it. There's nobody close.
yeah.
So it's like you go in football and you say, okay, who's the first program that everybody thinks of in the United States in football? Alabama, right?
Alabama. Yeah,
Right. That's what you think of in basketball. The first team you think of in basketball, like it comes off my tongue in football all the time because no matter how, even when we don't, like, I do a show with Shane Stafford, and I'm like, how come like every other week we end up talking about Alabama, even when we didn't really want to talk about Alabama. There's nothing to talk about. We end up discussing. That's because in football they're considered a cap. It's the same thing with UConn basketball. UConn more so, believe it or not, more so because as Nick Saban, I'll give him this. Nick Saban was close to doing it, and then for football in the same fashion, was able to do it. But I think basketball is harder. See, football, if you could now the NIL era is different, so that changes things. I guess maybe how you can do it. It's probably going to get, which is what I find so interesting that Hurley's been able to win 2 in a row like that and possibly win 3 because it has to be harder now than ever to keep everybody happy. The fact
yeah.
that he's doing it is incredible. But before NIL, Nick Saban was able to kind of hoard a lot of the best players. And then it wasn't until Georgia got good that it started to erode it. And NIL completely, obviously, will erode it.
Right.
That's what I think is so incredible about what UConn's doing in men's basketball is that I don't know how he's able. It's interesting. You could explain this to me better. I said this to Joe D. I said Hurley seems to get guys that play for him that all fit a similar role each year to year. Like he really wants a center like the guy he had last year and like the guy he had before. Even though they're a little different, they all have a little bit different skill sets, but he wants his ace guy to be this guy that pounds it in there, physical. And it's funny because it started out with Reed was the backup and Sampson was the start, but Reed is really like fits the role that he likes. And those other guys are all similar roles. They all have slightly different skill sets, but he kind of plugs and plays. And that's what he wants. And it's amazing that he's able to do it, obviously.
Yep.
But it seems like that's what he does. I don't know if Gino does something similar or not, but it seems like I think he tries to get the very best players he possibly can get, and then he kind of puts them in their spots, which I think is a little different than what Charlie does.
So on the men's side, I would say I would even think back to the Calhoun era. I think that Calhoun and Hurley are similar in that Calhoun was always very defensive minded, which Hurley 100% is. Calhoun always wanted to go after, he always wanted a shot blocker, right? So if you think back to a bunch of the really good teams that Calhoun had, they always had that, right? You got you got Jake Voskuhl, you had Emeka Okafor, you just had dudes that could protect the paint. And then I feel like Hurley every year he's been here has kind of had the same thing. And then Calhoun always had strong point guards. Dating all the way back. I mean, you're talking Ricky Moore to Duran Sheffer, to Leek Brown, Ben Gordon, and then, Kemba Walker, right? And then you look at the point guards that Hurley's been in, and a lot of those guys were not like highly, highly ranked
Right.
recruits in that position, but could play solid defense, ran the offense, bought in. And then they've always had like that lights out shooter, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you think back, right? Like you go back to like Ray Allen or Richard Hamilton, and then
Yep.
you even had like Rashad Anderson, Karan Butler, Ben Gordon again when I was there, all the way to Kemba, and then now he's got Caravan. He had that. Who was the transfer last year that he got that I loved?
From
Like,
Rutgers? Yeah.
yeah, what the heck was his name? I loved that kid. I don't know that they would have won last year without him.
He was great.
They
paid him. He was a guy that I think their first big NIL payment was him.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I remember because Rutgers was good. He got him from Rutgers. That was like I live in New Jersey. That was a big controversial thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously Hurley's from New Jersey. And they got him, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know if they paid him, but I'm pretty sure he got a decent NIL deal to come there. He was like the first person that UConn paid like a sizable amount to. Now I'm sure that everybody's doing it all over the place. But and now you got the D'Amelios that are part of your NIL. I mean,
Those guys are wild. They're great guys.
I could only imagine because it's obviously how they made their money, TikTok and everything like that, and the daughters, and then now him and the wife, and obviously they're UConn people. They were there before I was at school there, but they the father was. But it's funny because the way that he approaches even the NIL process with basketball involves the whole social media. Which has to be unique. I don't know, I'm not super familiar with a lot of the other schools and how they do their NIL, but just following what D'Amelio's doing is a little unique from that standpoint.
Yep, for sure. So so it should be an interesting next week. I'll definitely have, I'm sure, a bunch of stories for you next Friday after being up there with I think there's something like 70 or 80 former players coming. So and that was like a month ago. It could even be more now. I'm not sure. So it's going to be a wild couple days. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see some of my teammates. And
do they have an event for you guys beforehand?
They're doing like a little something, like a reception or something before at the practice facility. And then I think we're all walking out over together to the game, and we'll all sit together. And I think they're doing something at halftime, and then we're all going out to dinner. At Cafe Aura, Coach's restaurant afterwards. So
that's so cool, dude. That's cool.
It should be pretty wild. So I'll have some stories. Hopefully I'll be able to say that I'm 2-2 because I'll have 2 more games before then, which would be cool. We're starting to get it. It's starting to sink in. It's funny because I'm a little old school in that I grew up around all my male cousins who are all like psychos, but in a good way. They're all football players or like coaches or whatever.
Right.
And so I learned what the word moxie meant like at a really young age. And so I use that like a lot. Like, man, these kids these days, like they don't have moxie. So we're leaving at halftime, and I went kind of not nuts, but like I was a little pissed off at some of our effort stuff in the first half Wednesday. Like, let's control what we can control, right? Like, we can control shots don't fall, which they weren't in the first half, but we can control loose balls. We can control boxing out, blah, blah, blah. So I said to one of my seniors as we were walking out, I said, man, you guys need like Red Bull or something or whatever these energy drinks did. And she was like, Coach, we need whatever you drink every day. And I said, listen, I was breastfed Moxie. And my assistant coach, I turn around and she's like this. She's like, do you realize what you just said? I go, they probably have no idea what Moxie means. They probably think it's some like weird drug or like whatever.
Right.
Well, my mom's breastfeeding me when I was little or whatever. But that's just how I was raised. Like you got it out. Like
Right.
there's no price tag on grit. Like you either have it or you don't. But
No,
anyways,
that's a good point. And you have to
so
try and instill it as much as you can if they don't,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But anyways, I have to bid you adieu.
Yeah. We'll let you go. It's
And
great talking.
yeah, always great. Let's hope UConn gets that dub tonight so that we're celebrating even more things next Wednesday. And I'm excited to tell you all about it. So I'll
Yep.
see you next week.
You got it. Bye.
All right, bye.